Welcome to Career Tools. Our guidance on bad career advice. Follow your passion. Part 1. Here we go. So, Wendy, we're going to go against the grain yet again for the thousandth, billionth, hundredth, millionth time and tell people that what they're told about their careers and how they should follow their passion is really a bad idea. That's basically crap.
Yeah. So there's all these kids in English lit classes now in college listening to this going, oh no, Shakespeare's not going to help me.
Yeah. Now, look, we love people who follow their passion. We do. We like passion. We like people who pour themselves into their work. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's something different between saying that is your career advice. You should follow your passion no matter what. Because in some cases, people who are 22, 23, 24, 25, even up to 30, may not know what their passion is.
It may not be something you can turn into a job.
Yeah, that's the issue. There's a Venn diagram that you and I have talked about, which is what your passion is a circle, and what you can get paid for is a circle. And then there's another one. I've forgotten what it is. And it's the intersection of the three that really, really matter. And if you only focus on your passion, there's some risk. Now, you were telling me before about part of the reason this has gotten worse is because of Steve Jobs' Stanford graduation speech.
Yeah. He said in it, I'm convinced the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You have to find what you love. And that's as true for work as it is for anything else. And your work is going to fill a big part of your life, and that you need to love it. And that's the bit that everybody quotes.
Yeah. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do.
Yeah. What they don't quote is the other part of it where he says, it wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor in other people's rooms. I returned the Coke bottles in order to buy food.
Right.
Yeah. And he went to the Hare Krishna temple once a week to have a decent meal.
Yeah.
So follow your passion on one side. Yeah, it's great to have something you love, but it's not as easy as that because he struggled too.
Right. I think what Jobs was trying to say was that there's this focus on money, and he was trying to provide a countervailing force, which is let's follow your passion. Well, unfortunately, in the echo chamber of social media and the ability to broadcast to thousands of millions of people without filtering, that message gets repeated and added to and amplified and echoed in such a way that it has caused people to make bad career choices because they don't realize there's a balance between that. Jobs was saying about the other side of the balance, about the need to love what you do. But he also was talking to 22-year-olds that was informed by his wisdom of many years. And even though he was convinced that it was just his passion, I'm not sure he knew or that he didn't define his passion in exactly the same way when he was 25 as he did when he was 50 or 55. I'll tell you a good example of this, which I think you and I have talked about before. There's a famous meme in the world of digital media or digital content. Stuart Brand, who actually was a friend of Steve Jobs, once said, information wants to be free. And the point of that is that people nowadays use that as, well, anything that's out there should be free. Well, the point he was making is that information is sought after in such a way that the transaction costs ought to go to zero over time. The dollar cost averaging of the cost of information, if everybody had it, would essentially be free. But the thing that's not repeated, not quoted about Stuart Brand's famous saying is the next line was, and it also wants to be expensive, meaning really good data really good information needs to be expensive because that puts a price on it that helps us understand its value. Same thing here with Jobs, right? Follow your passion is put out as this generic advice as if it applies to everyone in every circumstance. It's like there's no downside. And heck, Steve Jobs said it in a commencement speech.
Yeah, so it must be right?
Yeah, but it's not. It's not, right? I mean, yes, passion is great, guys, but there are other things that ought to inform your decision that make a difference. And too often, I think, people say, well, that's not I don't like this very much, but it's actually getting down in the weeds and working on something and feeling the joy of achieving that causes you to feel the passion of, I want to do that again. And then suddenly realize when you're 30 or 35 or 40, wow, I've got a passion. So what's our outline? Sorry, that was a very long intro.
It was, but that's okay. So we've got 4 pieces and they all begin with don't follow your passion. So don't follow your passion, find a way to love what you do. Don't follow your passion, find out what makes you happy. Don't follow your passion, pursue your interests. And don't follow your passion, find something you like to do.
You like to do, okay? So the first point was don't follow your passion, find a way to love what you do, okay? I like that one just because I think wherever you are, if you're part of an organization, whether or not it's in your passion, we've said before to people in many, many career tools guidance, your first responsibility is to your family. And if your passion pays you nothing, and you have a family, you're not taking care of your first responsibility. You may disagree with the idea of a capitalist society and a market-based society where you have to provide value before the world gives you money, but that is in fact the way the world works. And so therefore, sometimes you don't get to work on your passion, right?
Yeah. If the only piece of advice you have, or the only piece of good advice that you're following is follow your passion, it leaves you with this huge hole if you can't do it as a job. And that's the only thing you think you love. Because many of the things that people think they're passionate about, especially when they're young and they haven't been exposed to so many things, they think about the things that are really competitive. So they think about writing novels, and they think about being a bestseller, and they think about playing professional sports, and they see the, how much does David Beckham's not working anymore, but didn't he get paid like hundreds of thousands of dollars a week? They think about playing computer games professionally, or designing an app, the next Farmville or whatever it is that makes millions of dollars. And all of those things are really, really competitive. And so is accountancy and law and, all those things. But people don't often say, I'm following my passion to be an accountant.
Yeah, let's be clear. The idea of video games versus accountant, those things, there are people who are passionate about both those things, and they both can lead to success. But there are maybe 10,000 video gamers in the world making any kind of money. Mm-hmm. There are kids in high school in America that want to play professional sports. And the total number of people in the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball making something equivalent to a decent living is less than, I think, the managers at IBM, let alone all the other Fortune 1000 companies. Not that this is an ad, folks, for a Fortune 1000 company, but I'm just going to say it here again. The idea that at 22 what your passion is ludicrous. If you'd have told me 25 years ago that I would be teaching management to millions of people every month, I would have said, you're nuts. I know I'm a really good manager. I happen to know indirectly that I was a good teacher, but it wasn't necessarily my passion. In fact, presenting is not my passion, but I appear to be very passionate about it because that's the delivery device that I have. And the reason I appear to be passionate about it is because I would not call it my passion, but I know that's how I achieve my passion. And I just think too many people think I have to know. And if I have to know, then therefore I should choose the thing I like the most. But a passion implies a mature approach to it rather than, if you'll pardon the expression for some of you, a childish approach to it. The things that are fun. Fun is not necessarily passion. And if you equate fun and passion, there are a lot of people, if something is really, really fun to a lot of people, and I suspect that's probably true since they don't have lots of programs for things that are fun for very few in the public schooling systems that most people are exposed to, then the pay is very low because people will essentially do it for fun rather than for pay. So it's frustrating to me. I worry that kids are not understanding that you can develop a passion not because you love something, but because you realize there's beauty in the hard work of loving what you do.
Yeah. And the other thing that people don't realize, I think, is passion doesn't equal talent. You can be really passionate about something and no good at it, or good enough at it, right? There's 100 ballet dancers in the company at the New York City Ballet, and they have a contract only for a season. So at the end of every season, they have to reapply, and they may get a promotion and they may get a demotion. And so you could be passionate, but are you good enough to be in that top 100? And if you're not, are you okay with just being in your city ballet and being, in the corps de ballet? Or are you okay with doing it in a touring company, which is apparently the worst way to be a ballet dancer?
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah. Okay. Useless piece of information, I happen to know. The question is it anything good enough as long as you're working at your passion? And for a lot of people, the answer's no, because in their imagination, when they think, I'm going to be a singer, they think, I'm going to be Beyonce. right? And there's a billion, I don't know how many there are. There are millions of people singing in pubs or, small venues, and they wanted to be Beyonce too, but they're not good enough at not only the singing, but the business of being a singer or a musician. And Beyonce is, but she's a 1 in a billion. And if you can't do that, are you going to be okay with, staying up late, singing in a dive bar, moving on to the next one every night, never sleeping in your own bed? I don't know. It might be your passion, and that might be okay with you, but it wouldn't be for me.
Here's another thing that I heard from someone, that if it's really your passion and you're 22, if it's really, truly your passion, 20 years from now, you should be able to work at it and still not be making a great deal of money. In other words, to be poor. If it truly is your passion, you're willing to be poor to do it, which is interesting, which is part of the whole thought process Mike and I had. We knew we had to do the podcasts. We knew we weren't going to charge for them. And we knew that there might be a revenue model. We didn't care. We were going to do it one way or the other. And if Manager Tools as an economic entity goes away, we will not give up on the podcast. I don't know how we fund it, but I'm sure we could figure out a way. It shouldn't be that hard. Now, we've turned it into a revenue delivering business. But if you're not willing to be poor, if your passion is to be great at something, that's actually not the important passion. You need to learn to work at the thing you do. The passion needs to be in working at it, not in the achievement you feel because you're famous or because you'll make a lot of money. That's why Wendy said you've got to find ways to love what you do.
Yeah, when I joined Manager Tools, I told all of my friends, just imagine I'm going into a convent. I'm willing to give up everything. I'm willing to live in a way that I wouldn't choose to live, and I'm willing to do it because this is what I believe in.
Right. Yeah, the same thing with Mike and I. We're like, well, we'll figure out a model. I don't know, maybe we'll have to take second jobs. In fact, we did in the beginning when we first started recording. But we believed in it, and heck, when you came to work for us, we didn't. I mean, it wasn't clear to us where we were going to be, but we absolutely believed in it. Now, I know people are listening right now and saying, oh, well, that proves that you had passion. No, we would have continued doing it for nothing. And if you're prepared to tell your family, this is my passion, yes, spouse, I love you, and I'm going to follow my passion when I'm 25, and that means we're going to be this poor, potentially for the next 20 years. Okay. But I find that interesting that you could be passionate about the one you love and passionate about work. And you could tell work, I'm going to love you. And you're going to tell your spouse, I'm not going to take care of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe you can find a spouse who will take care of you. That's possible. And the point you made earlier, you alluded to, was that early on in your career, you really have to work at stuff that may not be the most exciting part of jobs, right?
Yeah, I mean, even if you're working in your passion, if you want to work in theatre, you're going to start by sweeping, right? And the art of being happy in work is to find a way to love what you do, or to find some satisfaction in what you're doing. And from when I graduated until I found a real job, it was probably 10 years, and I temped for all that time. And when you're a temp, you always get all the tedious jobs. But you can give me a pile of data entry And I'm happy when I've got to the bottom and it's accurate, and there's a satisfaction in that. And there's a satisfaction in a pile of photocopies, that the board needs, and they're all straight, and the coffee's done, and, the board meeting goes smoothly because of all the preparation you did. It's not glamorous, but there's a sense of satisfaction in it. And, helping out your boss, thinking ahead and making sure they have what they need. There's joy in that if you work at finding it, if you think about, why am I doing this and how am I helping someone, as opposed to thinking, I hate photocopying, I hate photocopying, I hate photocopying. And the lucky people aren't the ones that have a passion necessarily. The lucky people are the people that can see joy in the mundane things.
Yeah, I got to tell you, if you want to be great at something, you better be willing to work hard to do it. And if you're putting off satisfaction until you're at the top of your career, you're going to be unhappy for a long, long time. And generally people say, well, I'll know that I'm working on my passion when I'm happy. But happiness is an inside job. You can decide to be happy about what you're doing. And if you want to succeed, you better be good at what you're doing, because the first rule of success is deliver results in whatever job you are. Bloom where you're planted. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett gave a talk years ago at the University of Washington in Seattle, near where Gates lived. And Buffett and Gates were on stage, and somebody said, how do you define success? And Buffett said, well, I can define happy because happy is what I am. And he said, it always surprises me that people tell me I'm going to do a job I hate for 10 years in order to allow me to do what I love. And in other words, they've found their passion and they're going to delay it for 10 years. And they're going to work really hard between now and then. And the interesting thing is that they're literally saying, I'm going to be unhappy for 10 years. I'm going to deny myself the satisfaction of good work, well done, in order to have my passion later. And I'm going to essentially ignore what my passion is or not do it. And I would say, we're not telling you that passion is not important. What we're saying is that when you start saying, oh, well, my passion is X and therefore I have to do it, then what you're also saying is, I'm willing to accept this other life. Imagine then someone saying, I don't want my passion right now because I can't afford it, and so I'm going to do something I don't like. They'll pay me for it. Okay, great. Well, why do it that way? Why not say to yourself, okay, I'm going to be good at this, and maybe my passion will be there. I don't know. I don't know how these people know that my passion is what I'll do when I'm 30. That's the issue. I don't get that. Like, well, where is it? Okay. I would say this. Rather than thinking when you're 22, 23, 24, or 25 what your passion is, why not try to be passionate at what you're doing? Why not try to focus on achieving success where you are? Why not be passionate about success, which is delivering results and relating to people and so on, and go home every day feeling good about what you did and discover who you are? There's a famous graduation speech by a guy named Tony Campolo who says a lot of kids he talks to go off into the world and say, well, I'm leaving school, I'm going to go find myself. And he worries that kids go find themselves and discover they're an onion. And when they get to the center, they peel back all the layers and there's nothing there but the center of an onion. And it always seems like they go nice places to find themselves, like Boulder, Colorado, or Vail.
Wherever you go, there you are.
Yes, exactly. Folks, the idea that you can only do your passion causes you to lose one of the most important things in life, which is the passion of a job well done. It essentially divorces you and your soul from the work you're doing now. I took a long time to say that.
It's important, and people don't get it.
That's it for part 1. Come back next week, folks. Career Tools next week, part 2. The bad career advice of follow your passion. See you then.